I am completely tired of it all. It is getting to the point where I don't even know what to do anymore. I just want to find a real, stable place to live. What brought me down here to Kensington? It was my abusive partner. I had to run for my life, and this pavement was the only place that didn't require an ID or deposit. Do I miss working? Absolutely. McDonald's used to be my domain. I was a manager, a real boss woman running the floor. But out here, you lose your house, you lose your status, and eventually you have to completely numb out your emotions just to survive the next 24 hours on the concrete. Welcome to Homeless U.S. News. Today, we are stepping into Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, one of America's oldest, most historic urban centers. But behind the colonial architecture and the monuments to liberty, a harrowing humanitarian emergency is unfolding in full public view in heavily impacted neighborhoods like Kensington. The streets no longer look like standard urban pathways. Human beings stand completely frozen on the concrete, their physical bodies bent forward at sharp angles, their expressions hollow and unresponsive, moving through the landscape in states of total exhaustion. This is where absolute poverty, structural housing loss, and severe dependency collide so visibly that the sidewalks feel less like public paths and more like an open wound that the metropolis has simply learned to walk around. Data confirms that over 5,700 people across Philadelphia are experiencing homelessness. But percentages cannot capture the crushing weight of crisis where human lives are unyielding safely in public while the rest of the world breaks stride to pass them by. If you believe that these human stories deserve to be dragged into the light, and that journalism should never look away from our most vulnerable neighbors, smash that subscribe button right now and turn on all notifications. Let's walk these historic blocks together. Drop a comment below right now. When human suffering becomes as visible on our daily commute, why does the system still look the other way? Let's uncover the truth. Part 1. The acceleration of displacement, the comprehensive numbers. To truly understand what is occurring in the birthplace of America, you have to look past the political statements and look directly at the real estate and economic ledger of Philadelphia. The city is currently facing one of the most severe and accelerating housing emergencies in its modern history. According to the latest official data from the Comprehensive Point-in-Time Counts, exactly 5,516 human beings were documented as experiencing absolute homelessness on a single winter night, representing a major 6% increase from previous tracking periods. But the specific metric that reveals a profound danger of this landscape is the rapid expansion of the unsheltered population. Exactly 1,178 individuals were found living completely unsheltered, sleeping on freezing sidewalks, inside public transit terminals, or beneath concrete highway overpasses. At the exact same time, chronic homelessness has risen sharply to 1,612 adults, trapping a massive segment of our population in a permanent, repeating loop of displacement where the street becomes their entire ecosystem. These are real people carrying their entire material existence inside heavy backpacks, tattered suitcases, or rolling grocery carts. The crisis has completely bled out of traditional containment zones, becoming highly visible from Center City to the furthest corners of North Philadelphia. More people are being pushed out of unstable apartments and crowded emergency shelters, ending up exposed to the elements because the safety net tore years ago and nobody stitched it back. For these thousands, homelessness is no longer a short-term emergency. It is a permanent, daily war for physical safety, secure sleep, nutrition, and basic human dignity. The gap between what the community needs to survive and what structures actually exist has grown into a vast canyon, leaving working-class citizens a fracture on the asphalt of their own hometowns. Part 2. The corridor of deprivation. Kensington's open scar. Kensington stands as one of the deepest, most agonizing, and highly visible scars on the face of metropolitan Philadelphia. This North Philadelphia neighborhood was once a vibrant, prosperous working-class community filled with bustling textile factories, multi-generational families, and stable daily routines. But today, following decades of deindustrialization and institutional neglect, it has been transformed into a global symbol of street vulnerability and structural poverty, a place where extreme human suffering is impossible to ignore. The official tracking data confirms that Kensington carries a wildly disproportionate share of the city's emergency, holding about 494 people experiencing absolute homelessness, including at least 280 individuals living fully unsheltered on any given night. Entire city blocks along Kensington Avenue are lined with makeshift nylon tarps, fragile tents, weathered blankets, and shopping carts pressed tightly against vacant industrial storefronts and rusted chain-link fences. Residents remain anchored to the same patch of dirt for months or years because the barriers to entry in the housing market are completely insurmountable. Daily life along the corridor is an endless exercise in physical and mental degradation, dictated by the absolute mechanics of primal survival. Daylight hours are consumed by an exhausting search for basic biological needs, hunting for a cup of clean water, searching for a public facility to maintain hygiene, or looking for an open outlet to charge a phone to stay connected with caseworkers. Nights bring absolutely zero peace. The nervous system remains locked in a state of high alarm to defend against predators, while the physical body breaks down from a chronic lack of restorative rest. The real tragedy of Kensington is the slow, systematic erosion of self-worth. These are citizens who once held professional jobs, raised children, and maintained dreams, now carrying an invisible weight of loneliness and shame on a public sidewalk that never feels like home. Part 3. The channels beyond awareness. Fluidity of exposure. The structural crisis across North Philadelphia is severely intensified by a devastating public health emergency unfolding directly on the concrete. The streets of the corridor have become a high-density marketplace for an incredibly potent and destructive toxic supply, specifically the widespread presence of synthetic fentanyl mixed with a veterinary sedative known as xylazine. This low-cost chemical combination has completely altered the biology of dependency on the streets, turning a severe socioeconomic crisis into an absolute clinical catastrophe. The physical and psychological effects of these substances are horrific to witness. The sedative properties drop individuals into prolonged, trance-like states of total immobility. You see our neighbors frozen in place on the sidewalks for hours at a time, their heads hanging low, and their bodies bent forward at unnatural angles, completely unresponsive to traffic, sirens, or the bustling world moving around them. The chemicals cloud the cognitive functions of the mind, drain physical energy, and leave vulnerable human beings trapped in a permanent state of numbness, where even the simplest actions become impossible mountains to climb. For an unsheltered person, this chemical fog turns a street corner into a physical trap. They turn to these substances as a desperate form of self-medication to quiet the internal chaos of trauma or to numb the physical pain of sleeping on cold concrete. But the substance is exactly what keeps them anchored to the dirt, without a private room, a secure bed, or an integrated medical safety net. There is absolutely no place to recover or heal. These are not statistics. These are real fathers, mothers, brothers, and sisters losing pieces of their minds and bodies in full view of a critical public. It is an environmental and medical disaster magnified by the pavement, proving that you cannot successfully rehabilitate a human life when their only sanctuary is an open alleyway. Part 4. The real estate wall, accelerating economic purging. To find the true structural driver behind the mass displacement in Philadelphia, you have to look past personal vulnerabilities and look directly at the economic design of the housing market. The city is currently caught in a severe real estate crisis that systematically strips away the human right to shelter from its lowest income residents. According to comprehensive data from the Housing Initiative at Penn, Philadelphia suffers from a catastrophic shortage of more than 64,500 deeply affordable housing units for low-income households. This massive supply gap means that for every 100 extremely low-income renter households searching for a stable home, only 35 truly affordable units actually exist on the open market. At the same time, commercial rents continue to climb relentlessly, with the median price for a basic one-bedroom apartment soaring to between $1,500 and $1,750 per month. This economic chasm is placing an unsustainable burden on the working class. Over 52% of all renters in Philadelphia are classified as cost-burdened, while nearly 30% are severely cost-burdened, meaning they are forced to hand over more than half of their total monthly take-home pay just to keep a roof over their children's heads. For the poorest segment of the population, that number reaches a staggering 70%. Every single extra dollar extracted for rent is a dollar stolen from nutrition, medicine, or transportation, creating a quiet financial desperation that builds month after month until a single life emergency breaks the budget. When a family faces a sudden corporate layoff, a cut in work hours, or an unexpected hospital invoice, the eviction process moves with devastating speed to the court system. Within weeks, ordinary working-class citizens find themselves standing on the curb, watching their material belongings left on the sidewalk. Once you lose your key, the barrier to re-entry is impossible to cross without massive support, trapping fully employed individuals inside vehicles and emergency shelters because their checkbooks can no longer mathematically match the speculative cost of a room. Part 5. The Systemic Chasm. Mental health support and paralysis. The cracks in Philadelphia's social infrastructure are most painful and severe when it comes to a profound shortage of accessible, long-term mental health and recovery support services on the streets. According to the latest official metrics, chronic homelessness across the metropolitan area exploded by an alarming 49% in a single year, tracking 1,612 adults who are permanently trapped in a repeating loop of housing loss. A massive portion of this unsheltered population, nearly 30%, is actively living with a severe, untreated mental health condition, while approximately 40% is locked in a daily battle with substance use challenges. But the institutional framework engineered to provide treatment falls tragically short of the public need. Waiting lists for consistent mental health counseling, specialized detox beds, and trauma-informed recovery programs stretch on for months at a time. Mobile outreach teams regularly engage with individuals who have spent weeks trying to navigate the social service bureaucracy, only to face closed doors, administrative red tape, or a total lack of available spots when they finally gather the internal courage to reach out for professional help. The street environment acts as a psychological grinder that magnifies this neglect. Imagine trying to manage a severe clinical depression, chronic panic attacks, or intense trauma when your nervous system is kept in a permanent state of emergency fight or flight. To survive the sidewalk, psychiatric medications are routinely lost, ruined by the weather, or stolen because there are no secure lockers or climate-controlled spaces to store them. Without professional care or physical sanctuary, the internal storms grow louder, draining every ounce of human energy and hope. The system was meant to serve as a safety net, but in daily reality, it functions merely as a temporary rest stop on an endless loop, deepening the isolation and human suffering of those who have nowhere stable to return to at the end of a long day. Part 6. The Overburdened Shelters. Limitations of Emergency Relief. In response to the expanding crisis on the pavements, the municipal government of Philadelphia has attempted to implement visible measures to bring people indoors. The city's current administrative blueprints focus heavily on a goal to add 1,000 new temporary shelter beds equipped with localized social services across multiple council districts. Coordinated street outreach teams work alongside nonprofit partners to engage with hundreds of unhoused individuals each week, attempting to transition residents out of high-visibility encampments and into emergency facilities. However, despite these funding allocations, the ground-level data reveals the immense limitations of short-term mitigation. The latest point-in-time metrics confirm that exactly 1,178 people remain living completely unsheltered across the city, representing a painful 21% spike in street homelessness in just 12 months. Frontline outreach workers describe a discouraging and repetitive pattern. They manage to secure an emergency shelter mat for a highly vulnerable individual, only for that person to face a complete brick wall when trying to take the next step toward permanent housing, because the supply of permanent supportive housing is a drop in the bucket compared to the ocean of human need. Emergency shelters turn into temporary holding cells rather than bridges to recovery. Many individuals are forced to leave these facilities early in the morning, sent back out onto the asphalt carrying their entire lives in heavy plastic bags, forced to navigate the same exhausting daily loop of survival before returning to wait in line for another night. This constant uncertainty between a temporary indoor cot and a concrete sidewalk extracts an immense psychological tax on human willpower. proving that managing the visible signs of poverty with short-term fixes does nothing to cure the underlying collapse of housing stability. Part 7. The Reconstruction of Care, Long-Term Integrated Solutions. Philadelphia has arrived at a historic crossroads where temporary emergency answers are no longer capable of containing a structural survival crisis. Curing this emergency requires an absolute transition away from short-term containment and a massive investment in permanent, long-term solutions that strike directly at the economic and medical roots of homelessness. The city must commit its resources to constructing thousands of new units of deeply affordable, permanent supportive housing, while implementing strict legal protections to safeguard low-income tenants from predatory evictions. The absolute center of any effective path forward is a comprehensive scaling of a housing-first approach. This evidence-based strategy operates on a revolutionary but simple truth. Housing is healthcare. It recognizes that a human being cannot successfully manage a severe psychiatric condition, overcome a complex chemical dependency, or secure stable employment, while their baseline reality is finding a safe piece of dirt to sleep on. True stability begins when you hand an unhoused citizen a key to their own apartment, a private space with a door that locks, a clean bathroom, and a functional kitchen. Once you remove a traumatized person from the constant panic of the sidewalk, their nervous system finally leaves emergency fight-or-flight mode. Their cortisol levels drop, their mind clears, and they can finally begin the long, difficult work of physical and psychological rehabilitation. Permanent supportive housing models that combine a roof with on-site case managers, mental health counseling, and job coaching have been proven to reduce repeating homelessness by over 85% in communities that fully commit their funding to them. We must build direct pipelines between street outreach, medical detox clinics, and permanent housing placements, while investing seriously in the neighborhoods hardest hit to stop the cycle of displacement. Safe, stable housing is not a reward for a perfect life. It is a fundamental foundation on which all human potential and dignity are built. Part 8. The Trap of Anxiety, the Clinical Reality of the Sidewalk. To truly map the human reality of Philadelphia's pavement, we must analyze the profound clinical relationship between the physical environment of the street and human neurology. The unhoused population is forced to exist inside an environment defined by nonstop sensory overload, constant ambient noise, and extreme hypervigilance. A human mind cannot remain psychologically balanced when his entire life is exposed to the elements and lived under the permanent threat of violence. The street acts as a psychological incubator for severe neurological distress. When a human being is deprived of a single night of secure, restorative sleep for months on end, their brain remains locked in a permanent biological state of emergency survival alarm. Over time, this chronic physiological stress causes significant neurological wear and tear, exhausting the mind's natural coping mechanisms and triggering severe anxiety attacks, deep clinical depression, and paranoia. The behaviors that the public often finds frightening or erratic on the street corners are not lifestyle choices. They're the direct biological results of a mind breaking under the unbearable weight of having no private space, no deadbolt to turn, and no sanctuary from a critical public view. This psychiatric emergency is severely complicated by the total absence of a coordinated medical safety net on the pavement. If an unhoused citizen experiences a mental health crisis, they have no safe place to store their prescriptions or attend regular therapy sessions. Backpacks are stolen, pills lose their potency in the rain, and appointments are missed because survival requires constant physical movement to avoid trespassing citations. Until our interventions prioritize the immediate creation of spaces of absolute privacy, calm, and physical security, the cycle of mental collapse on our sidewalks will continue to outpace every political intervention, leaving vulnerable minds to fracture in the dark. Part 9. The Underground Safety Net, Grassroots Empowerment. While the formal municipal bureaucracies and large-scale state structures often move at a glacial pace, the immediate survival of thousands of human beings on Philadelphia's streets depends entirely on a highly sophisticated network of grassroots organizations, street medics, and independent volunteers. This is the underground safety net of the city, a movement of ordinary citizens who refuse to accept human suffering as a permanent feature of their neighborhoods. The data from the front lines reveals an inspiring truth about this mobilization. Thousands of local residents consistently dedicate their time to step onto front lines of this crisis. What is most profound is that a significant percentage of these active volunteers are individuals who have personally lived experience with homelessness. They are survivors who managed to escape the quicksand of the pavement, and they are now returning to the encampments to pull others out. They don't arrive with judgment or generic advice. They arrive with deep empathy, shared language, and a distinct knowledge of what it takes to survive the concrete night. These grassroots teams and independent nonprofits are the ones doing the daily, heavy lifting that keeps hope alive in the shadows. They operate mobile hygiene trailers that provide hot showers and laundry services directly to the encampments along Kensington Avenue. They run independent food kitchens that distribute hot, nutritious meals wrapped in genuine respect. They spend hours sitting on milk crates and side tents, helping people replace lost birth certificates, fill out complex digital housing applications, and prepare for medical appointments. For a person who has spent months feeling completely invisible to the world around them, a volunteer who remembers their name and asks about their well-being without conditions is a life-saving anchor, proving that real change grows from the bottom up when ordinary neighbors choose to look at the pavement and see a neighbor. Part 10. Reclaiming our shared humanity. The systemic reflection. The homelessness crisis in Philadelphia is not an unsolvable mystery, a natural disaster, or the inevitable result of individual failure. It is a direct, structural consequence of choices we have made as a society. Choices about how we build our housing markets, how we allocate our healthcare resources, and how we protect the vulnerable among us. Every single tent lining the overpasses and every person standing in crisis on a downtown median is a living reflection of a social contract that has been systematically broken. We have built a society that generates unprecedented wealth and technological innovation, yet we tell ourselves that providing a safe, warm door for a veteran or a working mother is a challenge too complex to meet. This is an illusion of powerlessness. The work being done by local outreach teams, the deployment of integrated care campuses, and the success of permanent supportive housing models prove that we know exactly how to cure this crisis. What is missing is a collective moral will to prioritize human life over speculative real estate profit. We must stop viewing our unhoused neighbors as a nuisance to be cleared, a statistic to be managed, or a threat to be feared. We must look to the lens of radical empathy and see them for who they truly are, our brothers, our sisters, our parents, and our children. They are human souls doing their absolute best to survive under circumstances that would break most of us within a week. Real civic safety and prosperity cannot be built by walling off the wealthy and leaving the poor to freeze in the rain. True community strength is measured by how safely the most vulnerable member of that community can sleep tonight. Outro. The future of the cradle. As the evening light begins to fade over the historic steeples of Philadelphia and the shadows deepen beneath the elevated tracks of Kensington Avenue, our long journey through this crisis comes to a close. The neon signs of the downtown commercial districts flicker on, while down on the concrete sidewalks, thousands of our neighbors are preparing to face another freezing night exposed to the elements. What remains written on the pavement of this city is a profound portrait of human endurance, sharing the exact same frame as systemic breakdown. The thousands of human hearts surviving without shelter in Philadelphia tonight are holding on to a single, simple dream, a dream that is shared by human beings everywhere. It is a dream of a quiet room, a bed lifted off the hard ground, a door that locks the world out, and the peace of knowing you belong somewhere safe. This dream is not an extraordinary luxury. It is the baseline of human dignity. Thank you from the bottom of our hearts for staying with us until the very final second of this extensive, continuous documentary on homeless U.S. news. In a digital world designed around rapid distraction, your decision to sit with this heavy, unfiltered truth from the first sentence to the last word carries real human weight. You are no longer just a passive viewer. You are a witness to the reality of your neighbors. If this journey through the paradox of Philadelphia has touched your heart, challenged your assumptions, or made you look at the streets of your own city with a little more kindness, please take a brief moment right now to smash that like button. It takes less than a second, but it tells the algorithm that deep, human-centered journalism matters, helping this message reach thousands of more minds who need to awaken to this truth. If you want to continue walking alongside us through the hidden corners of America and giving a powerful voice to those who have been silenced in the shadows, hit subscribe to Homeless U.S. News and turn on that notification bell. We are building a global community that refuses to look away from human suffering. We want to hear your voice. What part of this documentary hit you the hardest? Have you noticed this housing crisis shifting in your own hometown? Let's start an honest, deeply respectful conversation in the comments section below. We read every single thought you share. Let's keep our empathy alive, reject indifference, and remember that we are all much closer to each other than the world wants us to believe. Stay warm, stay safe, and we will see you in the next story on Homeless U.S. News.